There is a gold more precious than metal, an invisible, vibrant, creative gold, the gold of words. Every phrase you speak is a spark that ignites the gears of the universe. Every thought spoken aloud is a seed cast into the fertile soil of reality. Based on the deep wisdom of Joseph Murphy, this text is a journey into the very heart of the creative power of language. This isn't just about speaking, it's about activating sacred codes, using your words as bridges between the unseen and the tangible. Here you will discover how your voice can heal, attract, transform, and manifest. Get ready to understand why the universe doesn't just hear, it obeys, and why when you speak with intention you become a co-creator of your destiny. Welcome to the Temple of the Word. Welcome to the Gold of Words. We live in a world that attributes power to what is visible. Physical strength is admired, money is valued, and external authority is obeyed. But very few understand that the most powerful force in the universe cannot be seen, weighed, or measured in kilograms or bills. It is verbalized thought, the word charged with intention, the decree spoken with faith. There lies the core of creative power. This book is not a treatise on public speaking nor a collection of pretty phrases. It is a guide to consciously activate the power that resides in your mouth and your mind. Because your word is not just a sound, it is a vibration that organizes the invisible substance of the universe. Every time you speak, you emit a signal to the energetic field around you, and that signal returns multiplied. If you affirm health, you are instructing every cell to regenerate. If you speak poverty, you are blocking the flow of abundance. If you decree harmony, you are calling forth people, situations, and events that match that vibrational state. But this is not about parroting phrases like spiritual mimics. It's about understanding the law. It's about knowing why and how a phrase penetrates the subconscious, transforms emotion, and alters the course of events. That's why this book offers a progressive structure, from the creative principle of the word, through its emotional vibration, to its specific application in health, money, relationships, and personal evolution. Each chapter is a key, each phrase is a seed, and you, dear reader, are the fertile soil. All you need is your clear intention, your determined voice, and your loving perseverance. I invite you to begin this journey, not to convince you, but so that you may prove in your own life that your word is law, that your speech is creative, and that within you already lives the power to transform any condition. Begin now the Gold of Words, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We've noticed that over 80% of our channel visitors are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Principle of the Decree. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This affirmation, taken from the first verse of the Gospel of John, is not merely a poetic introduction to the mystery of creation. It is, in truth, a scientific formula for spiritual production. The word, that is, the uttered phrase spoken with inner conviction, is the key that activates the mechanisms of the subconscious, the hidden workshop where all the forms of your visible existence are crafted. The decree, when issued with faith, with consciousness, with clarity, and in alignment with the mental law, holds the same power as that original fiat from Genesis. Let there be light, and there was light. Therefore, it is essential that you understand this principle from its root. A decree is not a whim. It is not a loose wish cast into the wind, hoping some deity will catch it and fulfill it. A decree is a legal order issued from the authority of your higher consciousness and directed to the perfect servant, your subconscious mind. The subconscious does not reason, doubt, or object. It only executes. It executes silently, like invisible workers assembling the stage of your life behind the curtains. When you say, for example, "I am prosperous, wealth flows to me," you are not lying, even if your bank account only holds a few coins. You are sowing. You are invoking an invisible reality that already exists in the mental substance of the universe. And by declaring that truth, you cause it to sprout. Just as the buried seed does not contradict the future flower. Jesus said, "By your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." This is not a moralistic parable. It is a physical law. Your words, when felt, shape your conditions. That is why the first principle of miracles is, decree, and it shall be done. Just as a physicist uses formulas to release atomic energy, you can use decrees to release spiritual energy. The difference is the atom explodes outward, while the charged word transforms from within. When you say, "My body is filled with life," every cell responds to the divine command. Your subconscious silently reorganizes the activity of your organs. I know this because I've seen it. A woman once wrote to me after years of arthritic pain, she began to repeat each night before sleeping, "Dry bones hear the voice of life. The Spirit of God now quickens me." Within 3 weeks, the pain vanished. Her doctor couldn't explain it, but she told me, "Dr. Murphy, something inside me was rearranged." A decree is a command that is not shouted, but spoken with authority. A patient once said to me, "I've been repeating affirmations, but nothing happens." I asked, "With what attitude are you repeating them?" He replied with doubt, as if testing to see if it works. Then I taught him the difference between repeating and decreeing. Repeating is mechanical. Decreeing is ceremonial, and it is the issuing of a sentence. It is saying, "This is so, and it cannot be otherwise." A true decree does not need to be said 1,000 times like someone rubbing a magic lamp. It is spoken once with solemnity, and then nourished with confident expectation, like an architect who does not redraw the plans every day, but trusts the builders to follow the design. So must you act when you decree. Let your subconscious do the work. When in Genesis we read, God said, "Let there be light," we find no doubt, no explanation, no struggle, only, "And there was light." That is how your use of the word should be. To decree is not to ask, it is to proclaim, to assume that it already is. When you say, "I am healed," even while your body still shows symptoms, you are not looking at the current evidence. You are planting a higher evidence, for the body, like clay, takes shape by the word of the potter. And you are that potter. There is a common error, the belief that words must be understood intellectually to be effective. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is feeling that gives life to the word, and you could say health 1,000 times with no result if your inner emotion is fear or despair. But if you say only once, "The infinite intelligence now restores every organ in my body," and you feel it as true, even if you don't know how, it begins. Remember, it is not the intellect that heals, it is the subconscious. And the language of the subconscious is not logic, it is image and feeling. In my consultations, I've heard people say things like, "I'm ruined. This has no cure, everything always goes wrong for me." I show them that every one of those emotionally charged phrases acts as a negative decree. "You shall not take the name of the Lord in vain," says the commandment. And that name is I am. Every time you say, "I am stupid, I am ugly, I am poor," you are using the name of God in vain. You are decreeing ruin into your life. Change your vocabulary, change your destiny. Your word is law for your mind. Repeat that. My word is law for my mind. Every time you speak, if you speak with conviction, you are signing a check that the universe will eventually cash. A young student once asked me, "How many times must I decree an affirmation for it to work?" I answered, "How many times do you plant a seed to grow a tree? Plant it once, but tend the soil. Water it with faith. Pull out the weeds of doubt, and let the law of growth do its work." And so today I invite you to practice this principle consciously. It's not about speaking beautifully, it's about speaking with power. Declare aloud each morning and each night, "I decree peace in my home, harmony in my mind, abundance in my finances, vitality in my body. I decree that the invisible now flows into the visible, that the idea becomes form, that the eternal manifests in time. I decree that everything I touch prospers, that everything I think aligns, that everything I imagine becomes real." So it is, so it shall be, so it already is. And now I leave you with this truth. The decree is the first lever that moves the universe. Use this lever with wisdom, reverence, and determination. Do not play with it. Use it like the builder who, placing the first stone, already sees in his mind the finished cathedral. Because your word, dear reader, is not a mere vibration of air. It is the seed of destiny. And your mouth is the threshold through which the eternal enters the world. Chapter 2. The vibration of the thought word. Every word is vibration, but not every vibration is creative. There are hollow words spoken like the movement of air, without direction, without energy, without soul. And there are words ignited, charged with emotion, saturated with conviction, which when pronounced penetrate the depths of the subconscious like a laser beam, piercing matter. Those are the ones that perform miracles. Those are the ones that create. Understand this. It is not enough to repeat phrases. It is not the mechanics of the word that produce change, but the emotional energy that accompanies it. Just as an electric discharge turns an invisible current into visible light, so emotion turns a neutral phrase into an effective decree. The word, when thought and felt, vibrates with such intensity that it leaves a mark on the psyche, and that mark becomes form. Émile Coué, the great French therapist, discovered this principle when he observed that his patients healed faster when they repeated positive affirmations with conviction and feeling. His formula, "Every day in every way I'm getting better and better," became living medicine for thousands. But he insisted on one essential point: imagination conquers will. This means it does not matter how much you desire something if your inner image vibrates with fear. That will dominate. And that unconscious but constant vibration will be what materializes. To better understand this law, remember the experiments of the Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov. His famous dogs began to salivate not only at the sight of food, but at the simple sound of a bell repeatedly associated with food. That neutral bell itself became a stimulus loaded with biological meaning. That is how your mind works. Every word you repeat, if associated with an emotion, becomes a trigger. You say failure, and a torrent of internal reactions activates. You say I can, and your body, your nervous system, your cells align with that command. But only if you say it with an authentic vibration. This is what matters. Your subconscious does not respond to the intellectual content of the word, but to its emotional tone. You can say I am healthy in a complaining tone and get illness. You can say I will succeed with hidden fear and encounter obstacles. But if you pronounce those same words with congruent emotion, joy, confidence, a vibration of certainty, then your mind obeys, and the entire universe begins to conspire in your favor. The ancients knew this. That is why the Psalms are full of praise, not out of blind devotion, but because they knew praise generates a high vibration. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have my being. Psalm 104:33. Every psalm is a tool for vibrational tuning. Praise elevates, energizes, clears the mind of doubt, and prepares the emotional ground for miracles. A man wrote to me from New Orleans telling how his life changed when he replaced the phrase, "I'm fed up," with, "Everything is improving for me." But it was not just the phrase, it was how he said it. At first his voice was flat. Then he began to sing it in his car, in the shower, during his lunch break. 2 months later, he got a job, overcame a gastric ulcer, and reconciled with his son. He said to me, "Doctor, it was as if my phrase had electricity." And that is the thought word. When it vibrates with sincere emotion, it becomes a creative current. Emotion is the glue that fixes the idea in the psyche. Without emotion, the word bounces off. With emotion, the word implants. Never forget that the spoken word is powerful, but the felt word is invincible. Therefore, when you decree, do not do it like a parrot repeating soullessly. Stop, close your eyes, feel, visualize, and then say the phrase. Say it like someone who shoots an arrow with precision. Say it like someone who plants a seed knowing it will bear fruit. Practice this. Choose a brief affirmation like "Divine intelligence guides me now." Repeat it every day upon waking, at noon, and before sleeping, but do it with rhythm, with pause, with intention. Place your hand on your chest, look at a fixed point, or close your eyes. Breathe. Then say the phrase as if it were already real. Visualize the effects, feel the relief, the peace, the clarity. This repeated emotion will charge the phrase until it becomes a permanent command in your subconscious. And remember, do not rush. Vibration is cultivated as one cultivates a musical instrument. It is not volume. It is harmony. It is not quantity, it is emotional quality. An affirmation said with authenticity is worth more than 1,000 empty repetitions. Just as a single well-played chord moves the soul, a single well-felt word transforms. Now, reader, answer honestly, what vibration do your words carry? Are you repeating decrees with hidden fear? Are you mixing your prayer with laments? Then first purify your emotion. Emotion is the invisible ink that the subconscious reads. In summary, 1. Every word is vibration, but only emotion gives it creative power. 2. The felt word enters the subconscious as an executive order. 3. It is not enough to say, you must feel, visualize, and give thanks. 4. Repetition without emotion is ineffective. Emotional vibration fixes the result. 5. Use psalms, praise, songs, any tool that raises your emotional state. Close this chapter with this daily practice. For 7 nights before sleeping, say quietly and with feeling, every word I speak is charged with power. My thoughts are creative vibration. Today I vibrate in health, peace, and victory. Do it with faith, do it with joy, and you will see that the vibration of your word will raise pillars where before there was ruin. Chapter 3. The Inner Laboratory. Within you exists a hidden workshop, a silent sanctuary, an invisible laboratory where the most astonishing transmutations take place. There, in that space without physical walls, your thoughts are treated as raw materials, your emotions as chemical reagents, and your beliefs as the furnaces that melt the crude to transform it into nobility. This place is called the mind, and more precisely, it is called the subconscious mind. Just as the medieval alchemist worked in his crucible to turn lead into gold, not as mere material ambition, but as a symbol of the soul's elevation, you too can, in your inner laboratory, transmute every problem into blessing, every illness into health, every fear into wisdom, every sadness into joy. But not through physical effort or external desperation, rather through the conscious and methodical use of mental and spiritual laws revealed throughout the centuries and confirmed by experience. Jesus, the great master of transmutation, expressed this law in parables. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he was pointing directly to this inner laboratory. When he multiplied the loaves, healed the sick, or calmed the storm, he was not breaking natural laws, but applying the higher laws of the Spirit that operate from the inside out. In each of those acts, there was an invisible formula: clear perception of the solution, absolute rejection of fear, and a verbal decree charged with faith. That formula is available to you. The parallel alchemist affirmed that every disease was first an alteration in the invisible field of man, and that it was only cured when harmony was restored in that field. Today we would say, every physical ailment is a visible effect of an invisible cause in the mind. And if the cause is in the mind, the cure must come from there as well. We are not talking about naive suggestion or illusion. We are talking about mental laws operating with mathematical precision. I have seen in my experience with the Unity churches and in numerous correspondences how ordinary people without scientific or religious training have healed chronic conditions by applying these principles. I remember the case of a woman in Chicago diagnosed with an inoperable tumor who, after attending prayer meetings and learning to visualize her body as filled with light and divine order, began repeating every night, "In my inner laboratory, the Spirit transmutes every shadow into light, every cell into perfection." 3 months later, her medical exams showed complete regression. Her doctor called it a miracle. She knew it was not magic, but spiritual law applied with consistency. The human mind, like the alchemist's laboratory, requires three elements to operate: desire, imagination, and faith. Desire is the fuel, imagination the mold, and faith the fire. Without desire, there is no movement. Without imagination, no form. Without faith, no energy. You must provide these three. The rest is done by your subconscious mind. Every thought you accept as true is deposited in the crucible of your subconscious. There, an invisible cooking process begins. If the thought is harmonious, it will attract harmonious experiences. If it is fearful, it will produce feared conditions. Therefore, watch carefully what you allow into your laboratory. Do not let the external world impose toxic raw materials on you. You are the alchemist. You decide what enters and what does not. When Jesus said, "The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things," he was referring exactly to this process. The heart here is a symbol of the inner laboratory, and the treasure is your beliefs, your decrees, your sustained images. From there come the results of your life. If your life is showing confusion, lack, or illness, do not curse the outside. Check your laboratory. Check the ingredients. A young bank employee in San Francisco approached me after a lecture. He said, "Dr. Murphy, my life is chaos. Financial problems, health issues, and no direction." I asked him, "What are you cooking in your inner laboratory?" He looked at me perplexed. I explained that every morning upon waking, his first thoughts were what he was casting into the crucible, and if those thoughts were worry, complaint, and discouragement, then the outcome could be nothing but confusion. I told him to dedicate 10 minutes daily in silence to repeat, "The spirit within me transmutes the lead of anguish into the gold of serenity. Everything in my life now orders itself according to divine law." 2 months later, he wrote me saying he had been promoted, reconciled with his wife, and his health was improving. Miracle? No. Mental transmutation. Never forget that gold does not appear by accident. It must be melted, cleaned, purified. And the same happens with your life conditions. If you want to see gold in your external world, you must first melt the lead of your old limiting beliefs. You must allow the fire of truth to act on your dark thoughts until they become light. This process is not fast, but it is sure. Do not rush it. Do not demand immediate results like turning on a microwave oven. Think of the alchemist. Work silently. Observe. Adjust. Wait. This is how you must act in your inner laboratory, with awareness, patience, and certainty. Your mind is a laboratory. You are the alchemist. Your words are formulas. Your feelings, reagents. And faith is the fire. The result, your health, your prosperity, your relationships, is the gold you will obtain if you work with order, knowledge, and perseverance. So now repeat with me. In my mind, the great divine alchemy operates. Everything that seemed a problem becomes a solution. Everything that seemed lead transforms into gold. And I observe the perfect process in peace. Do not say it once. Make this your inner anthem. Make it part of your practice. And whenever a challenge arises, remember, you have an invisible laboratory where nothing is impossible. Chapter 4. Power Phrases for Health. Every cell in your body obeys a mental pattern. Every organ, every tissue, every physiological function is governed by the image you hold of yourself at the subconscious level. You are not a mere collection of inert muscles, bones, and veins. You are a living expression of a sustained idea. Therefore, health is not just a physical condition. It is a sustained mental vibration, a constant inner decree that commands your biological systems how to act, renew, detoxify, and heal. This is a universal law, and like all laws, it operates without exception. Just as an electrician knows that connecting certain wires will produce current, you can connect specific thoughts with specific physiological results. But to do this, you must speak to your body with authority, method, and faith. Not with anxiety, doubt, or fear. The subconscious mind responds not to empty words, but to organized emotion. That is why this chapter offers you a set of scientifically structured phrases to direct that power toward the integral health of your body. Before presenting this catalogue of decrees, it is helpful to understand why they work. At the Emmanuel Clinic in Boston, a pioneer in applying mental principles to physical health, hundreds of recovery cases were documented that could not be explained by conventional means. These were patients who, by learning to issue positive affirmations directed at their nervous, digestive, respiratory, or immune systems, began reversing chronic conditions. What exactly did they do? They spoke to themselves in terms of fullness, order, and restoration. They repeated phrases before sleeping in a hypnagogic, relaxed state, which facilitated the idea being directly impressed on the subconscious. This technique aligns with the observations of Charles Fillmore, founder of Unity, who taught that scientific prayer is a mental formulation aimed at restoring divine order in mind and body. For him, it was not enough to ask. One had to affirm it was not enough to ask for health. One had to proclaim it as already realized. This is key. Now apply this principle to your nightly practice. Just before sleeping, when your body is relaxed and your mind is at a threshold of high receptivity, begin reciting a phrase directed at the organ or system you wish to treat. Do it with a slow rhythm, as if whispering it from your soul. Repeat it at least 7 times, breathing deeply. This moment is sacred. What you plant at that instant will germinate while you sleep. Here is a set of power phrases to apply. For the nervous system, the peace of God fills my nervous system. Every fiber, every neuron, every cell vibrates in perfect harmony. I am serene, balanced, deeply calm. For the heart and circulatory system, my heart beats in divine rhythm. Infinite intelligence regulates my blood pressure, my pulse, my blood flow. Every beat is strength, life, power, and love. For the digestive system, my stomach assimilates life with ease and every food is blessed. My digestion is perfect and God's harmony expresses itself in every internal process. For the respiratory system, the breath of God enters my lungs. I breathe deeply the life. My bronchi, my lungs, my oxygen all cooperate in perfect health. For the immune system, I am surrounded by protective light. Caracula descend upon my body with divine wisdom. Nothing can harm me. I am strong, invulnerable, healthy. For the skin and tissues, my skin reflects internal order and all irritation dissolves. Caracula renews with grace and I am beauty, purity, visible health. For the eyes, I see with divine clarity. My eyes are clean windows of the soul. Every optic nerve responds perfectly. I look at life with love and sharpness. For bones and joints, God is my structure. My bones are firm, flexible, and healthy. My joints move freely. I am strength in motion. For the endocrine system, my glands work in perfect synchrony. My hormones are balanced. Inner wisdom regulates every function. I'm organized vitality. For the sexual and reproductive organs, my creative energy flows in divine order. I honor my body. Every cell responds to the intelligence of life. I am fullness in expression. These phrases must be repeated not as empty mantras but as living decrees. Accompany them with visualization. Imagine the organ wrapped in light, functioning with precision, rejuvenating. You may, if you wish, accompany the process with soft instrumental music that induces deep and steady breathing. This will amplify the effect of your intention. An exemplary case. A man with ulcers used the affirmation for 3 weeks. My stomach is a calm lake. Divine order dissolves all tension. I am at peace. He said it 3 times a day, especially before sleeping. The results surprised his doctor. The ulcers healed completely. It was not suggestion, it was reprogramming. Another case, told by a Unity nurse, a woman with thyroid problems began repeating, "My thyroid sings in unison with the divine melody. My metabolism is harmony, rhythm, and energy." She did this during evening walks. After 2 months, her hormone levels stabilized without medication. The secret is this: your body listens. It listens faithfully, listens attentively, but only responds when the message is charged with faith and congruent emotion. That is why the practice must be rhythmic, daily, and heartfelt. And now, reader, make this commitment for the next 30 days. Choose an area of your body you want to strengthen or heal. Select one of the phrases, write it on a card, carry it with you. Repeat it upon waking, at noon, and before sleeping. Visualize, feel, give thanks, and watch how in your inner laboratory the word acts. The fire of faith ignites, and the gold of health begins to shine. Chapter 5. Power Phrases for Abundance. Abundance is not a coincidence, it is a consequence. It is the natural result of a harmonious, persistent mental pattern guided by the knowledge of spiritual law. What a person plants in their mind is what they harvest in their circumstances. And if what is planted is an image of fullness, recognition of the good already present, and anticipatory gratitude, the result can be nothing other than a prosperous, rich, and financially fearless life. Lack is not a punishment, nor a burden, nor a cross you must carry. It is simply a manifestation of misaligned thinking, a sign that in your inner laboratory, as we have seen, you have been depositing images of scarcity, phrases of limitation, judgments about money, and negative decrees spoken without awareness. I can't. There's never enough money. Life is hard. These are phrases that activate the law of rejection, and what you reject moves away. The law is clear. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10:22. But that blessing is only received when it is recognized. Charles Hannell, in The Wealth of the Inner Man, precisely stated, "You are not poor because of external conditions, but because of the internal image you maintain of the world and yourself. Change your image and the world will change with you. There is no greater truth. Whoever sees themselves as a channel through which universal wealth flows becomes that channel. Whoever sees themselves as a victim of circumstances multiplies them. Abundance, therefore, is a spiritual phenomenon before it is an economic one. To reverse lack and activate flow, you need to speak the language of wealth, even when your physical eyes see otherwise. It is not about denying reality, but reprogramming it from its root cause. The language must be one of certainty, anticipatory gratitude, and recognition of the infinite source as an inexhaustible provider. When you begin to say, "Thank you, Father, because wealth flows to me now effortlessly," you are activating the law of circulation. You are not begging, you are decreeing. I know many cases of people who, in the midst of bankruptcies, debts, or unemployment, began writing symbolic checks to themselves, signing them with affirmations like, "I, channel of God, receive this provision with gratitude." Soon after, they began receiving unexpected income, job opportunities, debt forgiveness, and unforeseen offers. Miracles? No. Conscious application of the mental tithe. This tithe is not only about giving 1/10 of your material income, it is deeper. It consists of dedicating at least 1/10 of your daily attention to contemplating wealth as a present state. It is mentally planting ideas of prosperity so they may bear fruit. For every hour of financial worry, you should spend at least 6 minutes visualizing your accounts full, your wallet abundant, your table provided. That is the tithe that bears the most fruit. Here is a series of power phrases to activate abundance. You must repeat them with intention, vivid imagery, and a feeling of gratitude already fulfilled. These are proven formulas. Use them reverently to activate the general flow. Wealth flows to me from all directions. The Spirit provides for me constantly and perfectly. Everything I touch prospers. To transform debt or lack, God is my provider. All debt is now cancelled by divine intelligence. The flow is free and active. I receive joyfully and open to opportunities. I'm always in the right place at the right time with the ideal people. Opportunities find me to affirm themselves as a channel. I am a clean channel of infinite wealth. There are no blockages in me. I circulate good and receive it multiplied. I thank in advance. Thank you, Father, because I have already received. Thank you for the increase, financial freedom, and success. Everything is perfect. These phrases should be used daily. Write them down, carry them with you. Read them before sleeping and upon waking. not as someone seeking luck, but as one activating the law of growth. And every time you use money, even a coin, say internally, "This is seed," and every seed returns multiplied. A woman in Los Angeles shared with me that after years of scarcity, she began leaving small tips with a written phrase, "God is the source of all provision." In less than a year, she opened her own floral design business. She said, "I no longer thought about what was missing, but about what was coming. And it came. There was no magic, only vibrational alignment." That is why I insist, decree. Declare, give thanks in advance. Do not wait to see the money to feel prosperous. Feel prosperous, and you will see the money come. Emotion precedes manifestation. Close this chapter with this practice. For 7 days at the end of your day, write 10 gratitude phrases for things you have not yet received but wish to manifest. Write them in the present tense. For example, thank you for the signed contract. Thank you for the rent paid with ease. Thank you for the raise received. Thank you for the new car in my life. Thank you for the abundant and constant provision. Do this every night. Read them aloud. Feel, imagine. Sleep on that vibration. Your subconscious mind will work while you sleep. This is how invisible power works. And always remember, you are not a beggar of the universe. You are an heir to its wealth. Claim your inheritance with words, faith, and gratitude. Chapter 6. Power Phrases for Relationships. Every human bond is essentially a mirror of your inner world. The relationships you maintain, whether harmonious or conflictive, are not products of chance, nor mere effects of others' behavior. They are fundamentally manifestations of images you yourself have planted in your subconscious. You have programmed, consciously or unconsciously, your way of being loved, heard, respected, or of being rejected, criticized, or ignored. There is no external relationship that does not have its invisible root in your relationship with yourself and your deeper mind. Therefore, if you want to transform your bonds, you don't need to change others. You need to re-impregnate your subconscious with new images of harmony, mutual respect, genuine understanding, and affection free from guilt. Only then, like a reflection that changes when the face that generates it changes, will the people around you begin to behave differently. They will sometimes change without knowing why, because the vibration you emit will have changed. Neville Goddard, great master of conscious creation, expressed it clearly in his writings. If you want to change your relationship with another human being, don't try to force it. Simply feel that it has changed in your inner world. Mentally represent a scene where that person acts with love, tenderness, and forgiveness. Repeat it until it becomes real for you. The rest will follow naturally. This imaginary act, Imaginalat, is the most powerful technique you possess to heal bonds. Now I want to present you with a concrete tool I call the third-person technique. When you feel that resentment, bitterness, or distance prevents reconciliation, adopt this practice. Imagine that both you and the other person are being observed by a wise, loving, neutral figure. This third person could be a higher version of yourself, a spiritual master, or a mentor. From that position, speak out loud, alone, in private, as if you were explaining to that observer what you feel, what you desire, and what you are willing to let go of. Then, in your imagination, allow that third person to speak to you and the other, proposing a new relationship based on love. Do this for 7 consecutive days. At the end of each session, say, "There are no longer 2, but 1. Separation is dissolved. Where there was judgment, now there is understanding. Where there was pain, now there is peace." So it is. And you will see almost without exception that something begins to move. A surprise call, a healing conversation, an energy of reconciliation without apparent cause, because you will have changed the image in your inner laboratory. But beyond visualizations, there are words. The word is the most direct emotional lever to reprogram relationships. Here is a set of power phrases you should repeat daily with conviction, especially before sleeping, to attract harmonious relationships. I vibrate in love and respect. I attract people who honor, value, and spiritually enrich me. My relationships are healthy, free, and fulfilling. For healing broken bonds, I forgive and I'm forgiven. I release the past. Peace rules between us. We see each other with new eyes and all is restored. To improve couple relationships, love flows between us like a constant river. We listen, understand, and support each other. Respect is mutual. We are a blessing to one another. To harmonize the family, my home is a temple of peace. Every family member acts from love. There is harmony, cooperation, and joy among us. To free from toxic relationships, I free myself and others. The bond that held us is now dissolved in light. I follow my path with love, without guilt, without resentment. I am free. These phrases should be accompanied by visualization. Imagine the other smiling at peace, speaking calmly. Do not relive painful scenes. You will replace them with new images. Just as a tape recorder erases one recording to record another, so does your subconscious. It needs a new image to replace the old one. I have received numerous letters of reconciliation that began with a simple decree. A woman in Buenos Aires wrote to me. Her husband had not spoken to her for months. She began to say every night, "My partner looks at me with new eyes, our story is renewed." She cried as she said it. By the third week, he took her hand and everything began anew. The power was not in the phrase itself, but in the emotion that accompanied it. Love is not imposed, it is imagined, decreed, and practiced. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, gave us the best relational code. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. 1 Corinthians 13. Not as a moral demand, but as a vibrational formula. Those who think like this, love like this, and those who love like this create such relationships. That is why I ask you today to stop waiting for others to change. Change the image you keep of them. Change your mental phrase, substitute judgments for blessings, and watch how, without correction or manipulation, love finds its course. Close this chapter with this declaration. I bless all who have passed through my life. I'm grateful for the good received and release all pain. I am now a center of love that attracts, transforms, and multiplies. Peace reigns in my relationships. Read it every night, write it down. Send it mentally to those you love, and watch how the invisible bond, more powerful than any external conversation, begins to heal. Chapter 7. When the decree seems to fail. Those who have begun to use the power of the decree with sincerity and consistency, yet do not see immediate changes in their life, often fall into one of the most common mistakes in spiritual practice: impatience followed by discouragement. I have declared health, prosperity, harmony. Many write to me, but nothing happens. I must be doing something wrong. And the answer, although it may vary in form, is always the same in essence. The decree never fails. What can fail is the ground in which it is sown. It is not enough to simply throw the seed. You must know the soil. Your mind is a field that contains, besides your clear consciousness, a deep unconscious where emotional residues, contradictory images, memories of failure, inherited patterns, and what Carl Jung precisely called the shadow reside. This set of repressed, feared, or ignored elements that, even if you do not see them, shape much of your behavior and results. If you decree health, but in your shadow you carry the image of illness as punishment or as an escape, then the decree will not be accepted internally. It will become an ambiguous order, and the subconscious does not execute ambiguous orders. This is one of the main reasons why the decree seems to fail. Ambivalence. You say, I want to prosper, but a part of you fears success. You say, I want to heal, but another part associates illness with care, attention, or even expiation. The external decree then finds no coherence in the inner world, and where there is no coherence, there is no manifestation. Another obstacle is guilt. Guilt acts as a silent neutralizer. Each time you repeat positive affirmations but harbor a feeling of unworthiness, you sabotage the creative energy. You can say, "I am prosperous," but if deep down you believe you do not deserve well-being, your subconscious will not allow it. Because the subconscious does not obey the word, it obeys the emotionally charged belief. So how then to resolve this conflict? How to make the decree penetrate the psychic field without being rejected by the inner layers of shadow, doubt, or guilt? The answer is the method of neutralization and reset. This method consists of 3 essential steps: recognition, silence, and reprogramming. 1. Recognition. The first step is to recognize that within you there may be contradictory beliefs. This is not about blaming yourself, but observing yourself. Keep a self-correction journal. Write down each day the internal phrases that arise automatically. What do you say to yourself when something goes wrong? What image appears when you think of money, health, or relationships? This inventory will show you the real content of your mental field. What you do not recognize, you cannot change. 2. Silence. Once the pattern is recognized, you need to empty it, not by effort but through practices of conscious silence. The teachings of Christian Science offer a key to quiet the superficial mind so that the inner truth can speak. Dedicate 5 minutes each day simply to observe your breathing without trying to affirm anything. This silence is like letting the soil lie fallow in agriculture. It allows the ground to regenerate. In that state, the subconscious lowers its defense and prepares to receive. 3. Reprogramming. After silence, decree again, but do so from a purified emotional state. Do not repeat formulas just for the sake of repetition. Say a single phrase with your heart aligned. For example, "I forgive myself. I accept good now. Everything in me cooperates with good." Repeat this phrase every night before sleeping. Do not worry about immediate results. Take care of internal coherence, and the result will come. I have worked with people who had been affirming unsuccessfully for years. Only when they recognized their internal images of unworthiness engraved since childhood and practiced silence did change begin. A man told me he repeated, "I deserve prosperity," but when saying it, he felt a voice inside saying, "Lie." I began to write down that voice, to observe it, and then simply left it in silence. The following month, I received an unexpected job offer. The decree had begun to operate because it had been purified. Understand that the decree is a perfect seed, but needs fertile soil. If the soil is poisoned by the past, by guilt, by fear, the decree will not germinate. Not because the seed is weak, but because the soil does not admit it. Your task is to clean the ground, and this is done not with violence, but with consistency, honesty, and silence. Just as a field must be plowed, you must prepare your subconscious. This is not a one-day job. It is a process, but it is a sure process, and every act of self-awareness is a step toward liberation. Here are some phrases that help in this neutralization process. I release all images of the past. I am clean and receptive now. Every error is dissolved in the light of understanding. I give myself permission to receive good without conflict. My decree penetrates every layer of my being. Nothing contradicts it. Love removes all guilt, and I'm free to prosper. These phrases should be used as a cleansing before the main decree. Think of them as the soap before anointing an instrument. They prepare, dissolve resistance, and make space for the new. And remember, the decree does not fail. If you still do not see results, check the receiver. Check your faith, your coherence, your inner readiness, and start again. There is no error love cannot correct. There is no shadow truth cannot illuminate. Close this chapter with this reset affirmation. Even if I do not see it, I know the law is working. Every decree I pronounce now enters a clean, receptive, and aligned field. I am at peace. I am in process. I am victorious. Chapter 8. The Power of the Collective Decree. There is a force that transcends individual thought, a higher current, almost tangible, generated when two or more consciences unite in the same idea, with the same intention and in the same spirit. This force is the collective decree. Its power does not lie in the sum of voices, but in the synchrony of emotions. It is not quantity that transforms, but the shared vibrational charity. When several people affirm the same spiritual truth together, that amplified vibrational field acts upon matter, the mind, and circumstances. Jesus said, "Where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them." Matthew 6:20. This is not a religious promise, but an energetic law. When multiple minds focus on an affirmation of health, peace, or abundance, they create a spiritual vortex that penetrates more intensely into the invisible plane. This has been observed, documented, and verified in various New Thought traditions, from the Unity School gatherings in Missouri to the structured liturgies of the Oxford Group in England. At Unity, statistics collected over decades showed a recurring phenomenon. Prayer requests sent to Silent Unity, the Ministry of Continuous Prayer, had positive results in over 70% of cases when accompanied by collective decrees. Why? Because each petition was sustained, uninterrupted, by synchronized prayer groups. The thought was continuous, the intention pure, the emotion shared, and the result inevitable. The Oxford Group practiced a simple but very powerful liturgy. They gathered in silence, internally connected with an affirmation. For example, God's will is perfect peace now. Then they pronounced it in unison, without shouting, without spectacle, but with authority. The effect was transformative. People with trauma, conflicts, or impossible decisions left with a clarity and peace they couldn't explain. They had been touched by the power of a shared consciousness. In Los Angeles, I met a choir prayer group. Every week, a dozen people gathered to sing metaphysical affirmations with a single melody, no sheet music, no discordant voices. One member told me, "We're not a choir, we're a channel. When we sing together, the atmosphere changes. It's like the vibration multiplies." And it did. Stories of healing, family reconciliation, and even material manifestations began to surround their meetings. What all these cases show is the same thing. Thought is a wave, and when several waves synchronize, their amplitude grows. This is what physicists call constructive interference. In spiritual language, the collective decree creates a resonance field where the miracle becomes more accessible. And how can you, the reader, be part of this? You don't need a church or a formal group. You can start with just one person, a friend, a family member, a co-worker. Agree on a time. Establish a common intention. Choose a phrase, for example, "Perfect health manifests now in us." Then recite it aloud together for 3 minutes. Be silent. Repeat. Close with gratitude. This is what I call a circle of affirmations. 3 rules govern it. Unity of intention. All participants must agree on what is being affirmed. There can be no internal contradiction. Unity of emotion. Each person must feel the phrase as true, not as a possibility, but as a certainty. Unity of silence afterward. After the affirmation, there must be 1 minute of shared silence. That space allows the vibration to settle. There is no need to discuss or explain, just affirm together and observe. Because what is affirmed in that collective field will begin to manifest. Maybe not immediately, but it will move. It always moves. A woman in New Jersey told me how, practicing this technique with her sick mother, they began repeating every night, "Divine light circulates through every cell of your body. You are health." After 3 weeks with no additional medication, the inflammation that had not subsided began to reduce. The doctor did not understand. She wrote to me, "It wasn't my voice, it was our voice." This is crucial. The collective mind can, in many cases, overcome individual resistance. If one doubts, the other sustains. If one hesitates, the other affirms. The collective decree works like a closed circuit where energy does not dissipate, but reinforces itself. That is why I invite you to form your own circle. You don't need to announce it. You just need to practice it. If you find no one else, mentally join the thousands who right now decree for good, for peace, for health. The mind knows no distance. Your voice joins others and the power multiplies. End this chapter with this simple act. Write an affirmation. Read it aloud 3 times. Then close your eyes and say, I now join all who affirm good. My voice blends with the great voice of Spirit. We are one. We are power. We are manifested truth. And believe this. The collective decree not only changes conditions, it changes atmospheres, societies, and the world. Chapter 9. Transmuting crises into platforms. There is no crisis that cannot become a foundation. There is no loss that does not contain a seed of gain. There is no rejection that does not hide a greater door. Everything depends, and only depends, on how you verbally and mentally frame your experience. Because the external event, no matter how dramatic, never has the last word. The last word is yours, and what you say about your circumstance is what will be recorded in your subconscious as the cause of the next stage of your life. When I teach this, many resist. How can I be grateful for an illness? How can I see a job loss as a platform? But it is not about denying the pain or romanticizing difficulty. It is about understanding that the way you verbalize your experience determines whether you turn it into a stumbling block or a stepping stone. This is a mental, spiritual, and practical law. During the years of the Great Depression, I received letters from men and women who had lost everything: jobs, savings, homes, even families. At first, their words were laments. I am finished. Luck has abandoned me. I will never get out of this. And as expected, their situation did not improve. But those who, despite everything, began to reframe their situation with phrases like, this is a cleansing. Now my true path begins. Something better is being made. I were the ones who soon began to see unexpected results. A woman from Ohio wrote to me in 1933, Dr. Morphy, I lost my husband and 2 children in an accident. For days I told myself, this will destroy me. Then I began repeating, this will be used by God for a greater good. The following year I founded a home for orphans. I never imagined that such a great loss could produce so much light. But it was the word that made the turn. Not time, not comfort. The word. This principle was deeply explained by Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived concentration camps. He taught that a human being can endure anything if they have a why. And that why is not something discovered. It is something built with words. I am here to grow. This will make me stronger. My soul learns what it came to learn. These are phrases that turn suffering into evolution. They don't eliminate pain, but give it direction. Just as gold is purified by fire, consciousness rises through adversity, provided the soul accepts the situation as a passage, not a sentence. Verbal reframing is the fundamental technique to achieve this. It consists of replacing phrases of defeat with decrees of transmutation. Don't lie. Don't say, I'm happy, if you are not. But you can say, I'm going through this with the strength of God, or I don't understand this yet, but I trust it will be used for my good. War veterans who managed to rebuild their lives were not necessarily those who returned physically unharmed, but those who began to speak about their experience with a new language. I learned what courage means. I discovered I can endure more than I thought. Now I value every moment. This transformation of speech is what turns a wound into a scar, and a scar into a medal. Those who don't reframe their experience remain anchored to pain, but those who find a new way to narrate it, elevate it. And by elevating it, change its vibration, and by changing its vibration, change their future. Here is a set of phrases to transmute crises into platforms. Use them every day, especially if you are in the midst of a difficult situation. Write them, repeat them, breathe them in. For material losses, all I have lost will be replaced by something greater. What seemed like scarcity is cleansing. I am being prepared to abound. For illness or adverse diagnosis, this situation is temporary. Every cell in my body is learning a lesson of balance. I heal inside and out. For breakups or separations, nothing breaks without something new being born. I release and I am released. The love I deserve is on its way. For job rejection or failure, this was not a failure but a redirection. I am being guided to my true place.